Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon, and today we're going to be showing you guys a scrim gameplay. So there's a tournament in about a month, and I wanted to show you guys some of our scrims as a high ELO team, what we're kind of scrimming and preparing before a tournament in a month. It's just a small tournament. I think it's like $500 prize pool. I don't really play tournaments. I don't do competitive. It's just kind of a fun thing that I got invited to play in the tournament. So, I got a team and thought we'd just start scrimming and having some fun, making content out of it and sort of explaining to you guys, part of the meta of competitive, but also acknowledging that it's not like I'm like a pro. I am a solo queue, ranked player who just decided to do some of this for fun. We're learning competitive as we go and like kind of this type of thing. So initially I am playing mid lane, but a lot of times mid laners in competitive actually just play side lane and your duo lane goes mid. It's pretty common. So I'm playing Warwick mid, but I'm really going to the duo lane by myself. Lanes, so that's a very common thing. And so what we're going to do this game is just talk over sort of the thought process of this game and then tell you guys some of the conclusions and things we've learned as a team. So this is my June 16th stream. So if you want to go to my June 16th stream, you can watch with the communication, like we're talking. And then we also VOD review after all 3 of the games of this scrim. But for now, I'm going to be showing my perspective and mostly talking, again, just about some of the common things you see in competitive or some of the new things I've seen as we've started. Because this is our 3rd scrim overall as a team. So we're still pretty new to it. We're still definitely not very good, but trying to improve that type of thing. So initially, again, I'm playing Warwick. We have Lilia on the other side, so we have kind of a little bit of a weird comp, but that's because they picked some, champs that Lilia tops pretty good into, and Lilia is relatively common, I think, in pro play. I don't watch a lot of like China pro play and that type of thing. But Warwick here, obviously a champion I play a lot of, usually gets good lane prio, so I thought it's a good pick just to have the kind of early lane control. We have the Varus and Nautilus controlling mid and then the Hecarim jungle. So we had our Hecarim path towards me this game just because Warwick's a bit stronger early, more likely that possibly something could happen. So that's kind of the main thing here, and all I'm really looking for here is just to trade heavily with the Mumu. I out-sustain a Mumu, so anytime he wants to walk up and trade, I'm fine with that. But he was going for level 2, so I had to make sure I backed off once he did go for level 2 as well. So kind of like some of the main things we've been doing well is like our early game. So we've had pretty good early game pathing. Something we've been doing commonly when we're in these scrims is we'll try to time our wave crashes in mid lane with a dive angle in whatever lane we're pathing towards. And so we'll create these opportunities where, like, for example, here I blow a Mumu flash, or we trade pretty hard and then we try to have an angle to roam. So we don't necessarily do that in this game, but it's something we had been doing and had done successfully, especially in our second scrim we'd done. And so that's kind of a common initial early game plan that we make pretty often. It's like, let's find some way to crash a wave on a similar timer to where we then want to stack a big wave to then dive to where our jungle's pathing, get a 4-man dive off and kind of get an early advantage. And most of our early games have been going pretty well. Our first scrim, the early games were rough, and then the next 2, we had really good early games. And even in the first scrim, it was pretty good. So definitely like the biggest thing for us has been like our laning phase and our early lane planning has been really good. We get a lot of advantages early. So you can see Lilia as well. He does a nice job getting the solo kill there. We nearly got the solo kill on the Amumu, and we kind of had really good early lanes just in most situations. So here we don't really have to like overforce. We got to kill top side. I'm relatively strong, already in this early game. Everything's going pretty fine, so we don't need to kind of overforce. And so I'm kind of skipping through a little. Like, I'm not going to show you guys every small, random thing that doesn't really matter. I'm just making sure to crash here for a recall, trying to get back to lane. And again, we're just having, a pretty straightforward early game so far. One of the common things that's important as well is like jungle tracking is just like everyone can actually track jungle and like knows where the jungle is a lot more frequently in this type of like scenario. So like we spot Mbessa there, so we're going to make our plays, more based on where enemy jungle is or that type of thing. And then Warwick here, because obviously I know now that Mbessa is probably going to start going blue side soon because her blue side spawning, and we know she started opposite of my Hecarim where his blue side spawning. I then use my second ability and I use my passive to find Mbessa to tell my team where Mbessa is. So they're saying like, they were saying in comms, Mbessa could possibly gank mid, be careful. And then I'm like, no, she's under Gromp because I W specifically to find her. So we have that extra information. So like just different communication that you can use, again, things like Warwick passive or those other things kind of make just coordination a lot better in these types of games. But early on, again, the main thing that I'm doing here, I just want to trade heavily enough to the point that I'm not really diveable because the enemy is low enough where they would die if they dive me. And then my champion's really good at surviving dives because I have my 3rd ability, damage reduction, and I can CC someone under turret. I have a lot of things like that. And so another important thing about like Warwick specifically here is I want to try to focus on getting prio when I can. because my champion's a lot stronger early game than a Mumu, for example. So here again, I'm trying to be on the wave right away so I can create an opportunity to then rotate towards mid lane if I need to. Because again, I see my team kind of posturing for a possible play there. Again, in this situation, nothing actually pans out. So I'm just sitting to continue to poke and just get control over this lane. And that's kind of, again, the main thing that we've been doing really well is we have control over our early lanes. We have prio. And so we're able to rotate when someone needs, but we're not also over forcing. And so one thing we're looking for now is just to make sure we're able to push and then get a recall here, because I do have my a decent amount of items here. I kind of forgot about this play, so I was skipping through. But basically, you can see, again, my champion is really, really good at avoiding these types of dives. So the enemy are kind of coordinating this. They're trying to look for me. They end up CCing me really well. And even despite all of the CC, my champion is just insanely good at surviving these types of dives. So we end up getting the kill to Mumu, ending up making it out 1 HP, and then getting just a really good early game here in general. So that damage reduction on Warwick third ability makes it so hard for him to dive, and that's why I'm pretty confident walking up, trading aggressively. If a Mumu's low, he's probably going to die in a dive like that type of thing. So it's kind of what we're looking for early. I want aggressive trades. I want us to both be like half health, because if we're both half health, I'm way happier than he is, since it's a lot harder to one-shot me compared to how easy it is to one-shot the Mumu early game if he is, you know, around 50% HP. And then here I'm just hovering mid, because if the enemy contests the Scuttle, or the Herald rather, I'm going to go Herald. But if they don't contest, I'll just go back towards my lane. And so basically here I'm like, yeah, turns out they're just not going to contest, so we really don't need to do much. Poppy can never actually kill me here. I'm totally fine with everything here. Just trying to allow my team to get back in the mid, and then we go through bot. So again, the early game here, pretty straightforward. Kind of the main things to note. We end up trading the objective just because Herald was stronger and Lilia was already strong through her solo kill, so we knew like we can probably contest that and win if the enemy do contest. Again, the Warwick pick is really good for kind of stopping dives, and you saw that where I'm going to trade more aggressively, because I know my champion's more happy when both people are low HP, which is why I've been trading aggressively and using kind of my early strength to get that type of advantage. And then that's just kind of overall like the main thing that happened with our early game. Again, just like that planning of pathing towards, again, our stronger laner in Warwick, possibly making some plays there. And then obviously Lilia just getting the solo kill made it a lot easier as well for the early game. At this point, my team is making a play topside. Obviously, you're seeing from my perspective. And a lot of times my perspective is going to be just like depending on, you know, where my jungle is. So if my jungle is on the opposite side, all I'm going to do is maybe get some small trades in, but mostly focus on having prio, getting recalls for my items, this type of thing. It's not really anything interesting. Because what's really important is that I can rotate and help my team, or just have more impact than the enemy side laner. So I want this lane pushing so that I can possibly rotate and help my teammates on top side, or on mid rather, if they need. So I just want to get in control over that lane. You see a lot of times a Mumu just ignores me and just goes for the wave, kind of in that same regard, where we're both more so just concerned with helping our team. But if I do get him low enough, I know that I can just help, or like I can deny him from being able to help his team. So like here he's low mana, he blows his ult on me, and so he can't really go and help his team. He's not very useful to his team, and that's kind of, again, the main thing I'm just looking for is I want to trade in a way that makes it hard for him to help his team, makes him, again, easy if my team does want to gank or dive, and then blows his cooldown. So if he's ever wasting his ult, I'm completely happy with that. And as a Warwick, I kind of know like I'm not really going to die most of the time if the enemy try to all-in me with my flash, my ult, everything like that. So we just take a simple recall here. We see a Mumu, again, since we get vision on him, we know that he's not reset yet, so I can probably be a bit stronger than him when I come back. So I'm going to be more looking to trade or possibly make plays, or just get prio, because I know if he had to recall, that means that I have this time to then get the prio over this wave, and then rotate in and find an angle to maybe help my team. So since I ended up pushing it first and he has to respond bot, I know this gives me an angle to make a play on mid, so my team sets up to play. They're going for it, and I'm saying I can move first, so we can look for a really good dive. And this is where kind of the lane prio, again, helps us set up a really nice little kill there. So all of that is coordination, where we know that we want to set up to play mid when I have prio, because I can move first. We realize the enemy are dead for a while, so we can actually get the tier 2 turret as well. I'm just going to zone the Amumu, making sure he doesn't walk up, and then I'm just going to fight over a jungle camp, because my team already has that. So again, things we've done well, we can see like the early game is usually what goes well for us, is that lane prio, the laning. Like we have players who are good at laning, because a lot of us play more solo queue. We don't play a lot of scrims, so we're usually good in lane. Like that's what it kind of takes to climb in solo queue, is to be good in lane, to be good mechanically, to win fights, that type of thing. But the macro of like the later parts of the game is a lot of times where we'll struggle more, which is kind of what we'll talk about, and also talk a little bit about how draft kind of also made some of these games harder for us later on in the game, and what kind of led to that. So we'll just talk about some of the conclusions again that we came to as a team. But here I need to reset because I have 2,000 gold to spend. We all kind of wanted to reset, and so the enemy take a bit of advantage of the fact that we needed to reset. and end up getting our mid turret. So we could have reset a bit quicker there. We wouldn't have been as weak. Instead, we end up being kind of late. And this is a very common thing we've done as well, where we get a good situation, we win a fight, we get a drag, we do whatever, and then we reset too late. So we reset greeting for their blue buff, for example, there, instead of just resetting right after mid tier 2. That means the enemy have time, because they're respawning soon after, to get that mid turret. So now we lose a mid turret, and we're also late on that play because I'm resetting even later than just the blue buff. So if I just reset right after blue buff, would have also been a lot better, but instead I reset even later. I'm not coordinated with my team, and so I'm just behind 10 seconds there, and the enemy are going to take advantage of that. Whereas again, in like a lower ranked game, they're not going to take advantage of that. But if everyone on the enemy team's coordinated, it's all sovereign players playing, you know, because I'm pretty sure all these people have probably peaked sovereign if they're not currently sovereign, or legend. You know, pretty much everyone in here is legend or sovereign or something like that. But again, here I'm just finding the move before the Amumu here. Again, that's why I can control the side lane so well and then move in before the Amumu gets me into the fight for them. I target the Ezreal because we were kind of saying before the fight as well, Ezreal's the strong person on the team right now. He was really fed, so we wanted to target him above all else. So I knew I'm just going to ult flash on the Ezreal as soon as I see it. I know I can't really go on many other people in these fights. A lot of them are just too tanky. So I knew Ezreal or Gwen, those are my targets for the most part, because we knew Mbess already had QSS and she wasn't that strong as well. And so that was kind of where that plan came from again. So constantly just using prio to rotate into fights first. And that's really, again, one of the main things that we were able to do here. Main mistakes that we've made so far is definitely just late resets after something positive happens, kind of being that. And then again, draft, as we'll kind of talk about, the more that we see this issue come up later in the game. This was especially a problem in the other games of this scrim as well. This scrim, this is the game that went better for us. We do end up losing all 3 of these games. I don't mind spoiling the result because I'm more here to kind of talk about the game rather than, you know, it's not like a entertaining thing where I'm trying to show you guys, you know, like gameplay and you're like, oh, did he win or not? That's what we'll do for the tournament. I'll post the videos of us playing in the tournament with the columns and stuff like that. But again, here, this is one of the actually big plays I want to talk about. And so this is one of the main things we talked about in our review, because we reviewed the games after, obviously. So what we're saying here about 10 seconds beforehand, I think I'm walking up around here, we're like, hey, Amumu could be anywhere. We don't know where he is. I don't remember exactly what time it is, but we say somewhere around here. We don't know where Amumu is. And so this was kind of one of the biggest turning points of the game for us. So we don't know where Amumu is. There's no reason for Amumu to be on my side right now because Warwick pushes turrets slow and the wave isn't pushing. So this is a timer where the enemy can take advantage of the fact that they could actually just 5-stack on one lane. They could play around that turret. Again, because I don't have a turret that I can take here. A turret's already dead. It would take me a long time to get here, whereas they want to play around that top turret. And so what Amumu ends up doing is he camps the bush topside, and they have all 5 people here. So we know they have a numbers disadvantage. We call that they have a numbers disadvantage, but then we end up still going a bit too aggro here, which is, again, I'm not saying this to blame my team because this is just a mistake we talked about that happened. And we move on. It's what happened. And so we end up going more aggro. Amumu comes out of the bush, as we knew there was a chance of him doing. Meanwhile, I'm Warwick. I don't push turrets fast, so me being on the side lane isn't a problem for them. And then they're able to even reset Gwen at that point. You can see Gwen's already about to show up bot side. Whereas if I think we could have done instead, we let me push out that bot lane. The enemy can get that top turret, we don't care. And then they'll have to respond to bot as we push it deep in, like as Gwen has to respond now. And then we could use the fact that I'd have lane prio for me to move into mid as I have now. And then we could go straight into Baron 5v4 because Gwen would be busy on the other side. So that would have been what would have been a lot more effective for us, because then we would have had the numbers advantage right as Baron was spawning, because the enemy made that play with 45 seconds until Baron spawns. So even if we died, it didn't really matter. Even if they got the turret, didn't matter. But what does matter is, you know, having the prio right before the objective. And then here we kind of know that they're going for Baron, so we end up stalling out pretty nicely. And again, because Gwen's just on the side lane, we end up being in a pretty fine spot here, getting the Baron from that play. So we do get the Baron out of it, and it is overall pretty good. Here I do a really stupid thing. I don't know why I decided to fight a level 13 Gwen. Like, this was completely just idiotic of me. Or level 12 Gwen, but then yeah, she levels up to level 13, and I just die. I mean, it's just stupid. Sorry, it's like 2 a.m., so my voice kind of hurt, or I don't know why. I'm pretty dry. I need to drink some water probably, but yeah, I inted for no reason there. I died. In terms of game result, I don't think this impacts a lot, but it was stupid. Shouldn't have done that. And it makes the Gwen more fed. So what ended up kind of happening this game at this point was now Gwen's really fed. She just got 2 free turrets bot side, even though we did get Baron. And at this point, they just kind of outscale us. And this was the conclusion that we came to with a lot of our drafts. Okay, I need to take a sip of water. Holy. Okay, now I took a sip of water. conclusion we came to with all of our drafts is that late game, we get outscaled on every side lane. Even if Warwick's ahead, he's probably going to lose to a Gwen. We had a different game where they picked Jax and Fiora, and into them, I forget the champs we were playing, but we were playing champs that just lose on side lane late game. And so we got a lot of early advantages in a lot of games. We did well early, but we just always got outscaled on side lane to the point that a champion got so strong that it was really hard to deal with. In this game, we were actually still pretty fine. Like, even at this point in the game, Gwen's strong, but we're ahead a lot. We're able to take fine advantage of this Baron, where we have a lot of people in mid. We have, you know, one pushing top, one pushing bot, and we're able to just get, you know, some turrets out of this. So this is all fine. We're still in a fine spot. My death was stupid, like we said, but we're overall in a good spot still. Gwen is their strong person, and she's stuck guarding me, so my team could probably pretty easily, you know, clean up here, kind of as we see going on in mid lane, and everything's pretty fine still at this point. Using the Baron, again, very common way to use your Baron when you're more coordinated, just 1-3-1, one person on each side lane, and 3 people in mid. That way you kind of have, you know, all lanes pushing at once, so the enemy have to respond equally, but then you have just the lanes pushing, so they kind of have to deal with everything at once. It's pretty hard for them to do so. So that's kind of the main thing, you know, we just use this Baron to get as much as we can. Not greeting or anything, but we get a decent amount out of it. This isn't like a game-ending Baron. This is just, you know, a Baron to get a bit more out, you know, a bit more gold and everything. We also came to the conclusion that we don't push turrets well here. Warwick doesn't push turrets well. Lilia doesn't. Hecarim doesn't. Varus doesn't. So we have no way to push turrets. So we could have taken Demolish potentially to kind of make this not a problem. Or we could just draft champions that push turrets better. So again, late game, we don't push turrets well. We don't have a lot of side lane presence. We don't scale well on the side lane. And that was really kind of our issue. And then here, the main issue is that instead of trying to control the waves and keep waves pushing, we end up going on Dragon right away. And then I reset because I assume they're not going to contest, but then they do contest. Because we thought each team has one Dragon, no one cares about a third Dragon, we'll just grab it and leave. But then what ends up happening is they contest late because I recall, assuming we're just going to get it, they're going to give it up because that's what we thought. And then it turns out that they end up contesting it, and we lose this fight pretty hard because of that. And that's kind of where the game goes really bad because it starts to turn around. The enemy get a couple kills. They have control now over the Baron side of the map. And then a little bit, we'll see I have another dumb death here where I think I died to Gwen trying to 1v1 her, and then they're able to get Baron off of it. And so this is kind of, again, the main things. This game is probably our best draft. Again, the game where we just made the most gameplay mistakes, and it was less due to, like, you know, draft, whereas some other games felt more like, yeah, draft was really hard. This one definitely was completely winnable, and we made some of these dumb mistakes. Like, I tried to go in and fight the Gwen there, but I didn't click my gargoyle in time because I got stunned by the Amumu, and then now the enemy are able to go into the Baron, get control of that, and there's not really much we can do from there, as you kind of see. So again, a lot of the mistakes we make as a team relate to, like, coordination, like me recalling on that timer when I could have just gone and fight with the team, and we probably just would win because we're stronger. Those recall timers, again, where we kind of get greedy, staying more than we need to for, like, a turret, or for something like that, and then the enemy get, you know, better tempo, and they can take advantage of the fact that we recall late when they're, you know, gonna respawn, that type of stuff. But we do a good job in the early game, again, as we've kind of mentioned. Getting advantage in the early game, winning those lanes, but a lot of times we have those drafts that don't scale as well, so it feels harder to play the side lanes later on in the game, all that type of stuff. So the enemy do end up sneaking the Baron. There wasn't really much we could do because we have Lilia on the other side, and if we walk in, we'll just die because they're obviously going to just have people ready to turn. So that's another interesting thing, is like when you're in solo queue, the enemy don't really zone you properly, so you kind of just like can go try to steal a Baron. But when it's like ranked, or when it's rather like, you know, 5-man or scrims, you can't necessarily just walk into a Baron and just assume the enemy are just gonna not zone. Like, so we kind of just know there's no way we're actually getting that. We'd rather just stall out and hope that we find a good fight after when everyone's alive. Which is, again, kind of the main thing here. But at this point now, the enemy have scaled too well. Gwen is absurdly fed at this point, and we don't really have any ways to kill Gwen, because if I go on Gwen by myself with my ult, my Varus can't follow up because she'll W. Hecarim would go in and get one shot. Lilia would get one shot. Nautilus would get pretty much one shot. Like, he did not literally one shot, but like melted, and then the rest of their team would turn on us. So it's at this point, you know, where we're kind of like, yeah, we just have to find sort of a random engage. And so what I'm doing here, I'm trying to just find a different angle to get in. And my only goal, because I'm, again, Warwick not that strong at this point in the game, I just want to get in. I want to CC people, and I want to make, you know, the enemy kind of turn on me, and then we just try to find an all-in angle. So that's pretty much what we're doing. We're paying like, hey, I'm going to go in. I'm looking for a fight. This is the last chance that we have to kind of win the game. Otherwise, the enemy get Elder and we lose. And we know, like, if we just do nothing, they're going to just win. So we're trying to find an angle where we can just get in somewhere, you know, else. I think the main problem here, I probably could have continued to go on their back line rather than going back onto the Poppy. But I think we probably lose anyway, because at this point, we're kind of just outscaled. And yeah, I mean, the enemy, they grab the Elder, they use the Elder to grab, or to continue to push. And at this point, like, again, it's pretty straightforward how they'll end the game. There's nothing really much to talk about. They'll just dive us under this turret and we'll die. So yeah, I'm going to have a link in the description to kind of the information on the tournament if you're interested in figuring out more, or you can do the ! tourney command in either of my streams on my YouTube or Twitch to find kind of the information on that. Just a small tournament we'll be streaming in a month. I'm streaming all the scrims, the VOD reviews, anything like that. I don't, you know, the goal is not really like, obviously if we win, we like winning, so it'd be cool if we win the tournament. I don't expect to win the tournament. We're just playing for fun, trying to learn, you know, have some different type of content, because I play a lot of solo queue. Might as well have some fun other things every now and again. That type of stuff is more kind of the information. This is my team, by the way. They're not, these aren't all my teammates, because the support is like our sub jungler, or like both of these junglers, like our actual jungler and our support. They both play jungle, and then our support wasn't here. We have like 7 players, and it just like kind of depends who's available for like scrims and that type of thing in terms of who plays. But yeah, that's kind of the main thing. You know, again, you can watch the VOD reviews, the June 16th stream, if you want to see like what kind of VOD reviews or what conclusions we came to, that type of stuff. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.